Hello, and you're very welcome to A View from the Saddle. It's a preview of the top class racing action that is set for Leopardstown over the course of the Christmas Festival. There are 7 Grade 1 races over the course of the 4 days, so we are going to have a look at all 7 Grade 1s as well as the Paddy Power Chase on the 27th. So a nice easy one there for the lads to get stuck into. As you can see, we have an esteemed panel lined up. Patrick Mullins is the most successful amateur rider that there has ever been in Ireland, and he doesn't do too badly when he takes on the professionals either, as we saw when he rode Allaho to victory in the John Durkin Chase there recently, a Grade 1 race, another Grade 1 victory. He's also a key cog, obviously, in the wheel of champion trainer Willie Mullins, who also happens to be his dad. Patrick, you're very welcome. How are you?
Thanks very much, Don. All good. We're busy away down here in Joe Sutton, gearing up for next week.
Yeah, good. And just without getting into any specifics for now, how is the team shaping up, or how is it coming together? Because you have obviously lots of horses and lots of options.
Yeah, well, look, it's been a very dry autumn and early winter, so we're probably backed up more than we usually were. We were probably 2 or 3 weeks behind getting the horses out. So I'd say you could see a few maiden herds beginning to chase where we're going to have several horses running in it against one another. But the last 10 days, they seem to be hitting the target. It's great that Paul Townend back. I think he's 8 from 12 or something since he's returned. So
lucky he didn't come back a week earlier than he did.
Exactly. We it means Christmas will be a little bit quieter for me, I imagine.
Yeah, good. We've got Barry Garrity as well. Barry, you're welcome. Obviously, Barry doesn't need much of an introduction. One of the most successful national hunt riders of all time. One of the select few jockeys to have won the 4 key races at Cheltenham, plus the King George, plus the Grand National. And it's Barry, a couple of years since your retirement. This will be your second Christmas festival now, not riding. What's that like? Is it very different?
It is, yeah. Christmas Day is definitely different. I am in Leopardstown on Stephen's Day for RTE, but yeah, I can enjoy a little bit more of the Christmas dinner anyway.
And of course, the Christmas has gone by, especially in latter years. You've been going over to Britain more than being based here, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been Kempton, sure. I'd say since 2008. Yeah, every year I would have been Kempton. Definitely Stephen's Day, but even mostly the 27th as well. So it's yeah, Leopardstown, I haven't been there as much as I would have loved to have been over the years, but lucky enough to have had a good few good days in the early years, but also in the latter years. So
yeah, good. Well, the other thing about Barry is when he was riding, he was one of the most astute people on the form book. So think how good he's going to be now with all this time in his hands.
You're setting the bar high, Don.
High enough. And Brian Cooper as well. Brian, obviously hugely talented and successful rider. Over 30 Grade 1 wins on the board, and is having a really, really good season this season as well. He seems to be the go-to man for lots of different trainers. Brian, how are you?
Great, Don. You well?
Yeah, good. And the Christmas Festival, it's been a really happy hunting ground for you in years gone by. You've won most of the big races there.
Yeah, it's been a very lucky place. Leopardstown's probably one of my favourite tracks, and Christmas has been it's been a lucky time of the year for me, so I look forward to every year now. We're looking forward to getting there again.
And again, without getting into specifics, how's your book of rides shaping up, or is it too early to say yet?
I actually haven't a clue, to be honest. Yeah, it'll be a last minute thing, I'd say. My agent Kieran O'Toole will do a bit of juggling there. I'm sure there'll be plenty of things to sort out, but hopefully now with the way things have been going, like Ferry House there back a couple of weeks ago, a nice book of rides. So if we can juggle away like that again, it'll be great.
Good. Okay. Well, good. So let's get into specifics then. So we start off with the first Grade 1 race on the 26th. And Brian, if we can come to you first, you won this race obviously last year in Franco de Port, and this year Ferny Hollow, Riviere de Tel. It looks like they might go there. Blue Lord as well. He holds an entry, but maybe Patrick will have a steer. It's quite a quick turnaround from his beginner's chase win. How do you see this one going, Brian?
Yeah, it looks a match between the top two in the betting, if you ask me. I don't know Willie, but it'd be unlike him to see if Blue Lord showed up. You know, it's probably a bit close to his run in Ferry House. I like the mare Riviere de Tel. I think she's improved no end since she's jumped fences. She's a real two mile jumper. She's slick. She gets a lot of ground through the air, and she's one now I wouldn't mind throwing my leg on around there, because it's one of those races you need to jump and travel. And I think now I'd like to see Ferny Hollow again before stepping in. Leopardstown's a tough jumping ground, and just wasn't really, he didn't catch my eye that much in Punchestown. I thought he was a bit deliberate at a couple of fences, and Leopardstown isn't really the place you can do that.
And of course, she gets she's only a 4-year-old, and she's a mare, so she gets what, 13 pounds from the geldings, the older geldings. Yeah,
it is a big advantage to her, and she's had what 3 runs over fences now, which will stand her going there. It's not an easy kind of place to go to on your second run, and I just would like to see. I'd like to see Ferny Hollow again before rocking onto Leopardstown, but I think she could be a hard peg back.
Good. And Patrick, obviously you rode Ferny Hollow in that race at Punchestown. He hadn't run obviously in more or less a year since before that, and maybe it's a run from which he will come on.
Yeah, I think so. He was off in front, and he was a bit leery in front. He wasn't particularly slick in the first mile, but in the last half mile over the last 4 when we had to race, he was perfect. He was long at the second last, winged it, got in tight to the last, but was quicker away than Course of Liam. It was a race that turned into a sprint. So obviously this race will be very different the way Riviere de Tell runs. Obviously giving her a lot of weight, not ideal, but usually horses are entitled to that weight. And I think possibly the way Leopardstown's fences are laid out might not suit Riviere de Tell. There's only one fence in the last 3 furlongs. In Navan and in Cork, there's 3 fences in the straight. So jumping is much more of an issue much more of an advantage in the last half mile at those 2 tracks than it is in Leopardstown. Look, we think an awful lot of Ferny Hollow, and I'd be lying if I said we'd be disappointed if he didn't win.
And was he, obviously he won his maiden hurdle last season, he beat Bob Ollinger, and then was it frustrating to have him on the sidelines for the rest of the season?
Hugely frustrating, but at the same time, the fact that it was a bone issue means that bone heals, so much better than, a tendon or something more serious. So we knew once we got him back, you weren't wondering was it going to reoccur. So it was frustrating, but it could be worse.
Yeah. And do you know about Blue Lord yet, or have you any idea as to what he's going to do?
I think himself, I think it's Ferny Hollow and Grand Bernard are the 2 that might go here.
Okay, good. Barry, what are your opinions? It's looking like a hell of a renewal, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it looks like a real clash between the 2. Ferny Hollow, he was a little bit in a rush, I would have thought, in Punchestown. He got in close to a few, but I'd agree with Patrick that he was very good over the last 4 when it really mattered. But it is a limited level of experience when you're taking on a mare who has that experience. She's getting the weight allowance. She is stepping up in grade, but she's working her way up in grade, and she was very impressive in Punchestown on her previous win. So they're coming from different backgrounds, if you like, and they're meeting at opposite ends. But it'll be a good match. Ferny Hollow, obviously the class horse, but experience could be his Achilles heel, or the lack of it.
Yeah, and on Riviere de Tell, to me, she shapes just a wee bit to her right at her fences. Is that something you've noticed, or something you'd be concerned about, or not?
She does a little, but she won around Navan, going left-handed as well. I suppose when you get in Leopardstown, you have big long straights, maybe with the exception of the third last ditch, which is on a turn. She met that wrong, and she gave away ground there, and maybe the second last as well, which you're turning back for home. So, but she has a lot of experience. She does jump really well. But as I said, they're coming from opposite ends. But Ferny Hollow, I would have to respect him with how he was over the last 4. I'm sure he'll improve for that run, and he will be better for the experience.
Yeah, good. And just, Patrick, before we leave this race, appreciate it holds an entry here, but I'm guessing it wouldn't be Willie's form to pitch a chasing debutant into a grade 1.
No, I remember we did it with Michael Dagenay in the Drimmore, and he got a fall at last. I imagine we look for a beginner's chase. Okay, good. Okay, so that's the feature race on day 1. We're on to day 2 now. We have 3 races to preview here. We started with the Paddy's Rewards Club chase. Easy for me to say. And again, this is shaping up to be a hell of a race. Willie Mullins holds the key here. Patrick, he's got an Ergumin and Chacun Pour Soi returning from a disappointing run in the Tinkle Creek Chase at Sandown. Do you have a steer on what might run here? Yeah, well, look, Chacun came back from Sandown a little stiff and sore, but after a few days, he's riding out fine since. He's working fine since. Donn McClean, who rides him out and looks after him, is very happy. So whatever went wrong on the day, to me, it was like a small physical issue. Maybe he pulled a muscle early, but, you know, there has to be a question mark whether he travels or not. But for my money, the Tingle Creek was, he was sore somewhere rather than he didn't travel, take the travelling. I imagine we'll try to split these two up. I know there is a 2-mile chase in Kempton over Christmas. The Desert Orchid, I think it's called, maybe, but we'll probably send one over there possibly. And which one comes to Leopardstown, I'm not sure, but it looks like it should be a race you're taking for either one if they turn up near their best.
Yeah, and of course you rode Chacun at Sandown. Interesting that you think that there was something amiss with him, because he seemed to, especially at the railway fences, he seemed to be meeting the first one on a stride, and he just wanted to take a short one beforehand.
Yeah, but even before them, the 4 fences before the railways, I was losing ground or just about staying where I was. He never had a cut at them like he can. Even the second fence, which is a stairy sort of ditch, you often see horses do funny things at it, but he should have gone down and winged it, and he sort of put down there, and then put down at 2 of the railway fences. And even at the pond fence, when he did come up, you can see him twisting in midair. So to me, there was just on the day, there was something at him.
But you think he, like, it's good to know that you think he'd be recovered enough to run at Christmas. Where that is, we don't know yet.
Oh yeah, oh definitely. No, like I said, he had a few easy days because he came back a little stiff behind, but he's back up riding, back up working, and there's been no issues with him thus far.
Yeah. Okay, Brian. Like, it's looking like it's some of the top class horses. Envoy Allen, he might be dropping back down in trip here. Captain Guinness, the stable companion, also trained by Henry de Bromhead, looks like he might go here as well. How do you see it shaping up?
Yeah, Captain Guinness ran reasonably respectable, I suppose, in the Tingle Creek. But again, I suppose if whichever one of Willie's show up, I'd imagine it'll be theirs to lose. You know, I feel Chacun Pour Soi every time his first run. He doesn't seem to be overly impressive. Like I remember even in the Hillyway last year, he didn't look visually impressive. I know, okay, there was clearly something amiss the last day in Sandown, but whichever one shows up now on the day, I wouldn't mind throwing my leg over either one of them.
Okay, good. And Barry, how do you see it going?
I suppose Willie has the key to it really with Chacun Pour Soi, an argument, and interested to hear what Patrick says. An argument is a horse I absolutely adore, and I'd obviously love to see him go here. But if he goes to Leopardstown, it must mean there's a lot of faith in Chacun Pour Soi that he's back to himself. Envoy Allen coming back in trip, I'm not fully convinced. I couldn't say he'd have won the John Durkin at 2 miles, so I don't see why he's going to beat an Argument or Chacun Pour Soi. So I think there needs to be more. We need more evidence, I think, to make a case for Envoy Allen in his well-being. So maybe there was an issue in Punchestown. We need to hear of some level of improvement. So I don't think trip is necessarily going to answer his questions. But really, then it's back to Willie. Chacun Pour Soi and Argument, whichever turns up, presuming Chacun Pour Soi turns up in the form that we've seen him here in the past. And
just on Envoy Allen, like what would you do if he was yours? Would you step him up in trip?
Well, he would have looked more like he wanted further than coming back in trip. Rachel was giving him a smack in the neck, leaving the back straight in Punchestown, and that's just short of 2 mile. So if she can't beat Allaho at that stage, she's not going to beat an Argument anyway. So unless there's some other reason that we're not aware of, to me it's further he'd need. But he isn't just showing the sparkle he was showing, whether that's through the injury he picked up in Punchestown at the festival last year, or the change of stables, or a combination of both. I can't say, but he's not what he was, not even what he was promised. He's not what he was.
Yeah, or maybe it was just in novice company he looked so good and just hasn't made the transition.
Yeah, I wouldn't be certain. I was second to him in the bumper in Cheltenham, and he was an aeroplane that day. He was an aeroplane in the Royal Bond. He was an aeroplane in the Drinmore. He was everywhere he went. He made good horses look very ordinary. So, and you have to be a really good horse to do that. So I don't think we're seeing him at his best, and hopefully we'll get back to that level again.
Yeah. Okay, good. So the next race on the 2nd and the 27th is the Paddy Power Future Champions Novices Hurdle, and we're not quite certain how this is shaping up. This seems to be just a bit more in undecided than most of the other races. But Brian, you rode Mighty Potter when he ran a big race in the Royal Bond Hurdle there at Ferry House the last day. How's he, and is this a race that he's on track for, do you think?
Yeah, he was in Navan on Saturday, and he seemed to come out of the race very well. I think he's going to improve an awful lot from Ferry House. It was only his second start over hurdles. He jumped off, and he was a bit keen, and I had to try getting a bit of cover on him to switch off, and then we steadied it right up, and I just lacked the gear from the bend really down to the last. But what he did from the last to the finishing line, like I was very impressed by. The penny only really dropped with him 150 yards from the line, and I felt another 100 yards and I would have went by the front two in front of me. So I'd like to think he definitely reversed the placings with the first and second in the Royal Bond, and I think it could take a fair horse to stop him now in Leopardstown in the 2 mile.
And do you think it was down to inexperience or the slow pace and quickening up, or a combination of all of that?
A bit of both. He jumped great, but it turned into a bit of a sprint from the back of the third last, and I just got a bit lost for about a furlong and a half. It took him a bit to get going, and he's not a slow horse. He actually has plenty of gears. I just think it was inexperience and quick ground, and it was probably his first time really getting into a proper battle, as he probably won his bumper and maiden hurdle on the bridle as such. So I think he's going to learn an awful lot from it, and he's a smart prospect now, and I think it'll take a fair one to stop him.
And do you think he's a 2 miler, or do you think he could go out and trip in time?
He's not slow. No, he's plenty boot. He probably will be a horse who will step up in time, but I think a nice run 2 mile there at the minute is ideal for him.
Yeah. And Patrick, you obviously won the Royal Bond with Statuaire. She showed a really smart turn of foot off what looked like a sedate enough pace, but she probably isn't the best novice hurdler in the yard, is she?
Well, it's hard to know, but we were pleasantly surprised by what she did in the Royal Bond. We've left 11 in this race, so
makes it easy for everybody.
Makes it easy, exactly. Most of them haven't ran this season, like I said, we've been slow to get going because of the dry autumn and early winter. So, look, Kilcrut was obviously disappointing down in Cork. Largy debut reopposes here, so possibly he could come here. He obviously won around Leopardstown and the Dublin Racing Festival, as did Geraghty when she won the mares race at that meeting. So she was very good. Brian rode her obviously in Ferry House. What Do You Want has also won a maiden hurdle in Navan. He was third behind Kilcrut, a long way behind him in Dublin Race Festival. Ran a strange race that thing. Looked like he was going to pull up turning out of the back straight, and flew home to finish third. He's a horse doesn't show an awful lot at home, but he's been on the track. He's 2 from 3, and he's probably a horse that might improve once he steps up in trip. I think, looking at a lot of his races. Obviously, Sir Gerard is there, champ bump winner. Again, look, they've entered maiden hurdles as well. So it's hard to say what is going to come, but the other 3, Horizontal Dairy, Hubrisco and Stateman, are all nice horses that do a lot of good work at home, French breds. But I'm afraid I can't let you know. I don't know what's going to turn up here, but it'll whatever does turn up will be going well at home, obviously.
Like, is that it's obviously a massive asset to have so many horses that are eligible, and then closer to the time you pick whatever you think are your best chances. So that's obviously a big pointer for punters looking in, isn't it?
That's it. Willie likes to keep all his options open. You can't put them in too late. So you might as well have them in too early and not be able to run, and choose not to run rather than not be able to run. So yeah, when you have a few entries, it means you don't feel pressured into having to run. If something is a little wrong at home, you can maybe wait with one and go with one who's going a bit better or has a clearer run. So it definitely gives you more options.
Yeah, and just finally, before we leave this, Patrick, on Kilcrut, like, were you disappointed with that he was beaten the last day? Obviously, you're disappointed when you don't win when he's long odds on.
We were very disappointed. Very disappointed. He'd been going well at home. He'd won first time out last year, I think, on the same weekend. We've no real obvious excuse. The winner could be very good. I know Rachel Blackmore had told me to get on the winner. It was entered an amateur maiden hurdle in Clonmel the week before, and she just said to me that if it runs, I should get on it. The last time she said that to me about one was Bob Ollinger and a bumper in Goran. So maybe
okay, judge.
maybe he's not too bad.
Yeah, exactly. So it might be that he's just a wee bit better than everybody thought going into the race.
That's it. I mean, I don't think Kilcroat ran to form, but we don't have any obvious excuse at the moment.
Yeah, okay. And Barry, it's a bit up in the air at the minute in terms of runners and obviously riding plans. Have you any strong opinion in this?
Mighty Potter, I thought, ran a brilliant race in the Wild Bond, and with a stronger pace and the experience under his belt, he'd be the one for me that you'd take out of the race. But you have to go on hurdles form and this season form, and Largy Debut was so impressive in Cork, and the fact that nothing has come to light with Kilcroat being possibly not firing on all 6 cylinders on the day, I think only speaks more for Largy Debut. So he could be the one to trouble Mighty Potter. But you can only go on this season's form and hurdles form. But Mighty Potter would have the strongest for me, and Largy Debut would be the one I fear.
Yeah, like, is it a case of we just kind of, I don't know, you see a long odds on shot getting beaten and you just naturally conclude that it was that he underperformed rather than the winner, i.e. Largy Debut, just is a far better horse than everybody thought he was going into the race.
Yeah, and Cork is such a flat track as well. A horse can be caught for pace. Largy Debut seemed to travel really strongly, a horse with high cruising speed, and maybe Kilcroat would have been better suited with maybe Navan or more of a test of stamina, if you like. That's, but you only find these things out afterwards. So it might have taken from Kilcroat's performance on the day of the track, but likewise then Largy Debut had the pace to really capitalize on that. So I think the winner deserves credit, but maybe the track played to his strengths.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, we'll stick with you, Barry, on the Paddy Power Chase. Nice and handy one for you now. We're moving on from grade one novice hurdle. Obviously, Fitzhenry, I'm sure you still remember Fitzhenry 2019 when Roaring Bull came from nowhere and you thought you had another one in the bag. But it is a race that you've done well in the past.
Yeah, I won it on Manila for You in 2015. I think it was about 8th turning in, which was the plan. And I was about 8th turning in on Fitzhenry, which was the plan. And led on Fitzhenry, I'd say 100 yards to the line, and got headed with about 30 yards to go. So I don't think it could be accused of getting there too soon, but I got beaten anyway. So it was that was disappointing. I didn't see that one coming, but it's a great race and has always been. It's like that, it's a tricky race as always. You have a million in here with chances. I thought Conflated obviously looks like he's favourite. Won really impressively at Navan. You'd have to like him. Alpha Mix and Henry's horse that clashed in Wexford. That race, that form could work out. Or was a punch, sorry. Alpha Mix was definitely, he's one who might improve with that. But it's, as I say, you can make cases for so many horses in here. Take your pick nearly. It's a bit of a stick to pin in it. As you know, over the years, it's not often with a favourite. Down the weights is always a help. So no, it's a tricky one, but top end of the market, I wouldn't mind riding Alpha Mix.
And in riding the race, is it a race in which you have to be patient?
It is, but you need a horse with experience too, or who takes it, because you've 30 runners, I think it is, and it's flat to the boards down the back straight. You have a straight run of fences, a lot of speed on. You won't get much of a view of your fences if you're back in the field. But if you're in the front half, you could be going too fast. So you just have to find the balance, and you have to where your horse travels, but you need a horse who's brave and up for it. So it would find out the horses with less experience, but they're the ones who are less exposed. So you're looking for a relatively inexperienced one who has the bottle for it and has the scope for improvement.
Yeah, okay. And Patrick, Willie Mullins won this last year with Castlebottom West, and he won it in, just looking here, 2013 with Rocky Boya, who raced in the colours of P.W. Mullins.
Yes, never ridden it, but I have one as an owner. Yeah, so that was a great day. And Ruby got up and beat Tony McCoy on Cause as a short head. It was a great watch. We have a few in it. The one that stands out for me, probably for us, is Lord Royal. He was disappointing in the Troytown, but he landed on the ditch early on. And that probably knocked him out of the race in reality. He has been a little bit disappointing. I'm expecting more from him. But we always thought he was a horse that could be capable of being 150 plus. He's running off marker 144, 11.5. It looks like the bottom weight is probably going to be, maybe 10.5. So he's not going to be giving huge amounts of weight away. So he is the one of ours that would stand out to me. But like I said, he does need to do on the track more what he's showing at home.
That battle that Barry was talking about, is he a horse who has that?
Yeah, he's a fine big horse, big tall leggy horse. He just he's running in the Troytown as a second season novice and got a bad mistake, and I think he learned from that. So yeah, I think that'll suit him. They seem to go very fast over the first 4 or 5 here, and then they pull the handbrake past in the stands. I actually think it's a race that's very hard to make up ground in from the second half of the field generally, but I think it'll suit him.
Yeah. Okay. And Brian, wide open handicap. Do you have any strong thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's wide open. I like 10-10. He's a horse that's kind of caught my eye a bit without winning a big handicap, and I thought maybe there's someday there could be a big pot in him. Just flicking down through it, I thought maybe he could be one to keep an eye on. But again, it's a lottery. It's a great race to ride in. As Barry said, it's a cavalry charge down over the first couple, and the last couple of years they sent to fly down over the first 4 and then steady right up. So it does help. I found in the last 2 or 3 years it does help to be up in the van a bit more than previous years.
Is that to do with the ground, do you think? Because when I think Castlebone West was handy from a fairway out last year, is it to do like on soft ground you can make ground from the top of the home turn up the hill, but on better ground maybe it's more difficult to do that?
Not really. I just feel a lot of these big handicaps nowadays, it's all a big cavalry charge down over the first 2 or 3 fences, and then everyone wants to be in the first 3 or 4, but yet no one actually wants to make the running. And I find sometimes like Paul bucked out last year in Castlebone West and dictated from the front, and it's one of those races. If you do get a handy lead, maybe you can be hard pegged back if you have class. Yeah.
Okay, we'll stick with you, Brian, for the feature race on the 3rd day, the Saviles Chase, and this was last year's winning ride of the year, wasn't it? Darragh O'Keefe was voted ride of the year when he got Plutard up to beat Camboy and Mellon, and it looks like he's on track again to defend his title this year.
Yeah, Darragh gave Plutard a fantastic ride last year. He never panicked, and he waited to come over to get over the last to have a go at him. I thought it was top class and well deserved. Plutard, I was very impressed with him in the Bedford Chase. There was just a real bit of a wow factor about it, and I think going back to Leopardstown, he's going the right direction. Stamina is no issue to him, and he's one I wouldn't mind being on now, being honest.
Do you think he's the right favourite for the Cheltenham Gold Cup at the minute?
On evidence, what he done in the Bedford Chase, yes, but you'd have to say maybe did he get outstayed last year by Milan Indo? But if he goes and wins the Saviles Chase the way he won the Bedford, like, he's going to be a worthy favourite for the Gold Cup at the minute.
Yeah. And Patrick, obviously you rode Mellon last year. Have you watched the video a couple of times and said, could I have done anything differently in order to get him closer?
Yeah, my view on the race last year was actually that Camboy and Mellon slipped the field, that most of everyone else riding the race was riding with stamina concerns, which is what Darragh was doing on Plutard. I don't think Mellon or Camboy will ever finish as close to Plutard ever again, put it that way. Look, if he turns up, he wins. I think he stands out in this race like a sore thumb. They don't have stamina concerns anymore. They'll ride him close to the pace. Possibly even in the Gold Cup last year, I think they might have, if they had it again, they might have ridden him close to the pace again. But he's a top class horse, and I don't see anything in there that's going to trouble him. Especially he's everything in his favour at Christmas in Leopardstown.
Interesting that you think that Camboy or Mellon won't get closer to him than they did last year.
Yeah, like what I said is that last year, I know, looking at the race beforehand, I remember thinking everyone in there was going to be holding up and thinking, will they stay, will they not stay? And some Manila Indo fell early on, and then something that was fourth, Allaho was fourth, who got well stuffed, and everyone ended up following Paul. and they got caught, I thought, 5 or 6 lengths out of their ground because Allaho ran poorly, probably didn't stay. Whereas if you were riding a Plutarch this year, you wouldn't be worried. You just bounce out, do what Rachel and Henry normally do, bounce out handy third or fourth, and keep it very simple.
Yeah. And are Mellon and Kenboy going to run here again, do you think?
I'd imagine they will. Kenboy always runs very well in Leopardstown. He seems to like it a lot. And he was disappointing in the John Durkin, but I think 2.5 is probably far too short for him. Mellon ran a cracker in the John Durkin, and he could be placed again. He enjoys being placed anyway.
Yeah. And Barry, it's looking like a deep race. Galvin's in there as well. Protectorate holds an entry, but I'm not sure Dan Skelton's going to send him over. Delta Work is in there as well. He's been confirmed for the race. How do you see it going?
Brilliant race, and you've the last 3 winners of it, with Appletard and Kenboy and Delta Work. So it's competitive. If you took Appletard out of it, he is, he's head and shoulders ahead of the opposition. Galvin's a good horse and he's progressed well. He won the Novice Chase at Punchestown, having won the National Hunt Chase at Cheltenham last season, but it would be a big step up from that, I think, to trouble Appletard. And Kenboy, Delta Work, they're here every year. Mellon running well in these races, but I think they're up against it this year. Appletard was brilliant in Haydock. He was a good second, obviously, to win in the Gold Cup. And as a 7-year-old, I think he's a horse who might just be really coming to his fruition now. So I think we're more likely to see him at his best. Whether that's good enough to beat Manila Endo come the Gold Cup, that's another day's work. But it'd be hard to make a case for anything to beat him here with any given look.
Yeah, no, he's looking rock solid as well with the stamina proven. But everybody kind of, after that Haydock race, everybody went, wow. Do you think he was in any way flattered by that? Or do you think that's really is as good as he is?
Oh, no, he was very impressive. But Royal Pagaille was a furlong behind him in the Gold Cup. And he was not quite a furlong behind him in Haydock. So I don't think he did anything, apart from the fact he jumped better, but he possibly jumped better because he wasn't under as much pressure. So it's only when you get into stronger company that his jumping will be tested, because he wasn't as slick in the Gold Cup as he was at Haydock. So we'll only know when we get back to the Gold Cup. But he was good in Leopardstown last year. I take on board Patrick's point that they probably just got caught ball watching a little bit with Allaho and got left behind, and then had ground to make up. So it was harder work. So you'd imagine he'd be more straightforward. He'd be ridden more straightforward. He has age on the side. His stamina is proven. So it should be very straightforward for him. If obviously you need things to go right, if he's healthy and well, he's a long way ahead of them, I think.
Yeah, bomb proof. Good. So we move on to the third day. Yeah. Continuing on the third day, the Durnan Engineering Christmas Hurdle. And Brian, this is a race in which Flooring Porter came of age last year. He won a handicap impressively before going into this race. He was sent off or allowed to go off at a big enough price, and he went and won it again before going on to the Stairs Hurdle. And he's favoured or joint favourite for this year's renewal. How do you see him going?
Look, he was very good last year in Leopardstown and again back in March. He's not an easy ride. He looks a very difficult ride, and Danny Mullins gave him a fantastic ride in Cheltenham. I'm not so sure he was going to win in Navan before he fell. I thought Petra Gage looked to me as if he was coming under pressure a little bit, but it was his first run of the year as well, so he was entitled to do that. The fact he's gone back to Leopardstown, and there's the hurdle track around there, I think suits him because he does hang, well, he hangs left and right, but you have the running rail nearly the whole way around, which will suit. And if he gets into that front running, that free going zone, I think he could take a bit of pegging back again.
Yeah, and who he's saying is as his main danger, it's Abbott Cadabra stepping up in trip probably for 2.5 miles the last day. Sarah de Burley is probably in there. Classical Dream, we lost Patrick of Classical Dream making his return. Yeah,
Abracadabras actually is an interesting one. He a horse who used to show a lot of pace, but I've ridden him work quite a few times in Gardens, and he seems to have gone the opposite way. He's gone very much relaxed. I actually followed him in the Hatton's Grace the whole way on latest exhibition, and he was actually off the bridle from word go. I was kind of using him to take me into the race, but I think he's an interesting one stepping up to 3 miles. They'll ride him cold, I'd imagine, and he's a classy individual, and he could be one to put it up to the favourite. Yeah,
because if he does stay, like, he's such a good 2 mile hurdler. I know he can't beat Honeysuckle, but he's still a top class 2 mile hurdler. So if he does stay, like he could be obviously a classy stayer as well.
Yeah, I think he'll stay. He likes to drop in, and he's gone very, very relaxed now, which will help things. And he's got a touch of class, and I can see him definitely arriving there, traveling very strongly down to the last, and what he finds after that will be very interesting.
And do you think going into Gordon's that he will progress from his Hatton's Grace run?
I think so, yeah. I sat on him about a week or 10 days before the Hatton's Grace, and he took a little blow that day. So I'd imagine he'll improve, and I'm looking forward to seeing him step up and trip now. I think he'll be an interesting contender.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. And Patrick, Classical Dream, we haven't seen him since he was so good at Punchestown the last day. Is he likely to make a seasonal return here?
Yeah, I imagine this is where he'll turn up. We didn't run the Hatton's Grace. He just wasn't firing, and what's the point taking on Honeysuckle when you're not 100%? So like I said, a few hours a bit behind that stage of the season. Look, what he did in Punchestown was a phenomenal performance. Possibly, he might have been flattered is the wrong word, but it was a race that worked out very well for him. Florian Porter ran very keen. One or two took him on, turned out at the back. They went hard and fell back into his lap a bit. I mean, the horse was second. James de Burley sat out last. But it was still a very, very good performance. It's a horse who won a Supreme Novices. So a little bit like Abracadabras, he has that touch of class, and he's not slow. But you do know this fellow will definitely stay. So look, for me, he is, well, obviously Champ is over in England now, but he's the one that this staying division, he's the one that could turn into a big bucks or an English Driva, a horse that could dominate this division, because he has that touch of class. And that's what we're hoping he can do. He's going to have to go and prove it now. Obviously, Florian Porter sets a serious standard, and Abracadabras will be a fascinating contender as well. So this could be a really, really intriguing race.
And what was the thinking in stepping up to 3 miles the last day? Because it was a massive step up in trip, obviously, from 2 miles to 3.
Lack of options. He showed when even though he won a Supreme Novices, he showed when he went into open 2 mile division that his jumping just didn't stand up to it. He made 2 terrible errors in the Morgiana and the Christmas Hurdle. Then he was meant to run at this meeting last year in a beginner's chase, got a little setback. And by the time we had him ready, then there was no point in going for a beginner's chase that late on in the season. So it was a case of rolling the dice and seeing, and they landed on double sixes. So
and if the ball had hopped a wee bit differently, or if the dice had rolled a wee bit differently, he'd be chasing now, probably, would he?
That's it, yeah, 100%. So that's such things do careers hang,
yeah. Barry, again, you've obviously ridden Sir de Burley. You won the Pertemps final on him at your last Cheltenham Festival. Looks like he's going to rock up here, is he?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Sure, if he's fitting well, it would be the obvious place for him. And he has form with them at that level. But Florian Porter, for me, doesn't get the recognition he deserves. He won this race last year as a 5-year-old, and everyone said, "Oh, he got a freebie," and then he went and won the Stayers Hurdle, and he didn't get a freebie there. He made it a freebie. But you'd have to take on board the comparisons that Patrick is making for Classical Dream, and possibly bossing this division for a little while. So I think that's a fair level of confidence behind Classical Dream. But as I say, Florian Porter is a horse I do like a lot. I thought he gave a blow before he fell in Navan, and looked like, to me, he was just coming back to life. But I just think he doesn't get the recognition, and at the age, he's open to improvement. You can draw a line to his punches and run because he needs to go left-handed, and hence why he went to Navan and why he's Leopardstown. I can't imagine I'll see him go right-handed again. So I would be sweet on Florian Porter, and Abracadabras is interesting. They rode him very differently in the Hatton's Grace. He took his time, and as Brian said, he was cold. He was behind the bridle. That's how you'd want him to be, because he was a very strong traveller, especially as a novice. So you don't want to be travelling strong in the 3 mile hurdle, because you're not going to get home. So he will be interesting. But as I say, they're to me they're brave words and Classical Dreams. So I'd be taking note of those.
And what do you make of the division as a whole? Obviously, Champ was really good. He threw his hat into the ring on Saturday at Ascot. What do you think of the staying hurdlers at the minute?
Oh, it's chock-a-block. I thought Saturday was a great race, obviously. Tyne Hill ran well. He was keen enough throughout. Paisley Park would have benefited probably from a better pace. So he still ran well in third. So he's a bit of a forgotten horse. But there's 5 or 6 real live contenders there at the minute. So this will be an interesting race. It'll tell its own story. Champ is open to improvement, having been only his first run. So it's a fairly hot division at the minute.
Yeah, and there are so many unknowns in it, aren't there? Like with Abacadabras and Classical Dream coming back, a couple of questions that will be answered.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I suppose Classical Dream is towards the head of the market. So he was very impressive on Punchestown, and you'd have to be impressed by that. But Abacadabras is just he's one maybe just creep into the picture as well. Yeah.
Okay, good. On to the final day then. The feature is the Matheson Hurdle, the Grade 1 2-mile hurdle, and only one place to start here, Patrick. Sharjah hat-trick winner, would be a 4-time winner at the Leopardstown Festival, but for coming down in the Future Champions Novices Hurdle 4 years ago. How's Sharjah?
Yeah, he's in great form. Obviously loves Leopardstown at Christmas. Be very, very cool to join Istabrack and Hurricane Fly as 4-time winners. I mean, they're 2 real legends of the game. So he looked as good as ever in Punchestown, the Morgiana. It was a race that actually ended up being ran ideally for him. He went quite slow. The ground was quite nice. It turned into a bit of a sprint, and he loved it. So it was an ideal starting point for the season. He's come out of the race in great form. Looking at the race, again, the fact that Honeysuckle doesn't come here obviously makes things a lot easier. And it looks like he has to beat horses that he's already beaten. Zani here, obviously, I think off a stronger gallop would probably pose more of a threat. It'd be interesting to see how they ride him. Quilixios, I suppose, could come as well. But, there's no novice coming through this year, I suppose, because Appreciated obviously gone chasing and Bob Ollinger's gone chasing. So it's the juveniles that are the new kids in the block. So having beaten Zani here, I suppose Quilixios is the one then that is the unknown.
And given that, you'd probably get a stronger pace in this race than you did in the 3-horse race. Do you think that Zanahir and Echoes and Rain could get closer to you off a faster pace, or do you think Sharjah will improve as well for a faster pace?
I think he's quite versatile. I think off a faster pace he has something to aim at, and he's got plenty of gears. It turns into a sprint. From me riding as a jockey's point of view, it doesn't bother me whether they go fast, slow, or medium, which is a great advantage to have on a horse. Echoes and Rain she's definitely better than what she ran in Punchestown. She will improve for a better pace because she was just too keen in Punchestown and then didn't jump well because she was concentrating on pulling more rather than racing. So she is better than that. But she is only rated 143. She has to step up significantly in order to match Sharjah. So it's a race I'm really looking forward to.
And is she likely to run here as well, do you think?
Well, she come out of Morgiana fine. This would be the obvious place for her to come. And I can't say for certain she'll go here, but I imagine it would be the number 1 target probably.
Just finally on Sharjah, what is it about this meeting and this race as opposed to the February meeting and the February race, do you think?
I'm not 100% sure. Ruby has a theory that the Christmas is on the very inside track, and Barry might tell us more about this, but the Christmas is on the very inside track, whereas February is in the middle of the course where the flat racing is during the summer, and maybe that it gets watered and it's just a slightly different ground. But I don't know. But both times I've ridden him in February, I've known after the 3rd hurdle that this isn't like Christmas. So for whatever reason, he seems to prefer December than February anyway.
Mm. And Barry, on that, is that a factor, do you think, the outside track versus the inside track?
Yeah, I'd say so. For me, Sharjah hinges on the ground. The better the ground, the better for him. And with how it looks at the minute and the forecast, I'd imagine it's going to be favourable for him. I think Zanahir would need it slower to make it more of a test and for the ground to be unsuitable for Sharjah. So unless he underperforms, he should be hard to beat. Echoes and Rain, she went our favourite obviously in the Morgiana, and there was a lot expected of her on the day, but you'd have to question her level of form, albeit Colonel Mustard ran well at the weekend. But she's on the handicap ratings. She has a stone to find, so she's a good bit to find. Calixios possibly disappointed behind Tiapo in Naas, but I think Tiapo is a dark one here. Very progressive last season, big horse. I'd say he's done better for time. I'm not saying he'll beat Sharjah, but I think he's the horse of the slight outsiders that could just step up into this company. So to me, he's a horse on an upward curve.
It's hard for 4-year-olds, isn't it, to step into Grade 1 company the following year?
It is, but he's a big scopy horse. He looked to me like a horse who has improved a lot in that Naas race. So he will have more improvement to do. I'm not saying he'll beat Sharjah, but if you're looking for something, if you're looking for next best, he could be that. I do like Zanahiyr a lot. I think he's a very good horse. I'm not certain we've seen him at his best, but I'd just be fearful that the better ground might just work against him at this trip.
And just finally, San Rahi, a horse on whom you won the county hurdle, you think he could be good enough to make this step up into this company?
Yeah, we thought it. That's after he won his county hurdle and came back the following season, and he won in Tipperary really impressively. And he struggled a little bit at the top level. So unless Patrick can tell us something about his work at home, he'd have to improve on what he's been doing in recent times for him to trouble Sharjah.
Patrick, is he on track?
Well, he schooled over fences earlier in the season, so he has that option as well. So Willie's mulling things over, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him going over fences possibly.
Okay. Brian, you won this race on Petit Mouchoir a couple of years ago. How do you see it shaping up?
Yeah, I suppose look, Sharjah and Patrick have a great record in the race, and going through it, I think I'm finding it hard to see where the pace is going to come from again to turn it into a stamina test. I was quite happy with Zanahiyr. I thought he made the step up in grade. It's tough for the 4-year-olds taking on the older horse, and I thought he ran very respectable in Punchestown. David didn't go overly quick on him, and I'd say a stronger run 2 mile will definitely suit. And again, I'm actually going to go with Barry. I thought Tiapo was very impressive in Naas. He beat Calixios maybe 10 or 12 lengths, and looked impressive. And I saw him the other day do a bit of work, and he looked visually very, very good. So look, on rating, he's quite a lot to find, but I think maybe just if you're looking for something that down the field, maybe he could surprise a couple of people.
But it's interesting because they're obviously both juveniles last season and from the same yard, from Gordon's yards, and Zanahiyr would have been regarded as being quite a way superior to Tiapo. Yeah,
well, Tiapo didn't come out till late enough in the season. I think he didn't run until maybe February, and he missed Cheltenham. He went to Fairyhouse then. And he's a big scopy horse. I'd say he's a horse that you'll see jumping a fence in time, and I'd say he's the type that improved an awful lot from a summer's break, and to go and win his first run the way he did now, it was very good. Look, as I said, on rating he's quite a bit to find, but I think if there's one to take the step up in grade, it could be him.
Good. And Calixios, he kind of hung a wee bit the last day, didn't he, against Tiapo at Naas?
He did, yeah. He looked very, very good last year, and obviously when he won the Triumph, he was very impressive. But maybe he just needed a run. But 12 lengths is a big margin to fill. So I'd imagine if I had the choice, I'd be picking Tiapo over Calixios at the minute anyway.
Yeah. And Brian, if I can stay with you just for the final race, we're going to preview the Neville Hotels Novices Chase at Leopardstown. Again, a couple of unknowns here where they're going to go, but it looks like Run Wild Fred or Beacon Edge or both of the Jigginstown horses might go.
Yeah, and I'd say Fury Road will show up as well. He ran very well in the Drimmore. I think he'll appreciate the step up and trip a bit more, but it's looking to be a cracking contest. Beacon Edge came and Chindis on the line and on only his second start, so I'd say he's definitely going to appreciate the step up and trip as well. So Run Wild Fred obviously was very impressive in the Tri-Town, and he's got a fair hike in the rating, so he has to step up into Grade 1 company. It's going to be a fascinating contest, and it's one I'd say it'll be a great race to watch. Yeah, and Patrick on the ropes has an entry here as well, fresh from finishing fourth in the Ladbrokes Trophy at Newbury. Is he likely to take his chance?
Yeah, look, we'll have to see obviously how he goes during the week. He got a hard race in Newbury. To be honest, I haven't seen him as a Grade 1 horse. To me, he's a good quality handicapper. He could be ideal for the 4 Mile Chase in Cheltenham with the experience he's gained in handicap company as a novice. But I haven't seen him say anything that he'd be up to Grade 1 standard. So, we also have Statler's in there now. He could go elsewhere too, but Statler as a horse, I think, is going to be a far superior chaser than he was a hurdler. School him a good bit at home. For a big horse, he's quite quick and clever. It reminded me a little bit of Black Hercules. He looked like a slow hurdler, but I think as a chaser, he's going to be a faster horse because of how he fences. So this is an option for him. And then obviously there's lots of others there. Gallup Lachance hasn't had a run. I'd be surprised if he turned up here, but we're very happy with him at home. And Jungle Boogie is another horse that's schooled very well. He's very lightly raced. Only had 2 runs, but he's won very well both times. And again, another horse who fences very well. So I think they probably won't come up here in the first run. So this race could be difficult for us.
And interesting what you say about Statler, because like my worry anyway going into the race at Ferryhouse was that the trip might be on the sharp side from 2 miles 5. But you think he could, that type of trip, like as a la Black Hercules, that could be a type of trip over fences, do you?
I just think it's possible. I was riding him there for a little bit earlier in the season, and I was surprised having riding him a bit of work and schooling him. I was like, he just thought he's a faster horse than I was giving him credit for before as a bumper horse or as a hurdler. So sometimes you see horses that fence well, they can come back and trip because of how they jump. Yeah,
no, good. And Barry, like this is a deep race. If they all line up, it'll be a massive race. But Cape Gentleman's in there. Vanillier, Gavin Cromwell could run either Vanillier or Gabinaco. How do you see it shaping up?
Yeah, definitely. And Cape Gentleman was a horse I thought, especially on the better ground, got well beaten by the good filly of Gardens in Punchestown. But he's like a horse who will enjoy a trip as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got involved here. Vanillier obviously has the options. Gabinaco is there as well. If Gabinaco was to get his jumping together, he could have been hard to beat in the Drinmore had he jumped, because he nearly fell on about 3 occasions. So he's definitely a quality horse. If Gavin can iron out his jumping issues, having jumped really well on his previous start at Feria. So it's a good race. Statler is there as well. I'd agree with Patrick. He looked quicker and slicker, and it's not unusual for horses to be that way. Finian's Rainbow, we ran him in the old Neptune as a novice hurdler, and he came back. He was second in the Arkle and won the Chacun Pour Soi the year after that. So he wasn't showing the 2 mile pace as a hurdler, but he showed it as a chaser. So it's not unusual. And Statler was very impressive.
Yeah, and Gabinaco, maybe the step up from 2.5. If he does come here to 3 miles, that will suit him because he's a horse who does stay well, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. But the jumping's his issue, because he, for no reason, he just went down and he bulldozed fences and did really well not to fall. So if he was to put in a good round of jumping, that would be the strongest level of form, because I think he'd have won the Drin more comfortably with a good round of jumping.
Yeah. Great. Perfect. Just going to ask you all, and I didn't tell you this beforehand, just for your best bet for the week. Not to spring it on you, but I'll start with you, Patrick, if that's okay. You probably have a lot of thoughts on who's going to go where. But if you were to be given a bet for the week, what would that be?
Look, I'm hoping the Classical Dream will be a class apart as a stayer. That's what I'm hoping. I've been disappointed before, but like I said, he might have been flattered in Punchestown, but it felt very good.
Good. And Brian?
I think Mighty Potter for the future Champions Novice Hurdle. I think, as I said, he's going to improve massively from Ferryhouse, and I think he'll take a fair bit of stopping. Good.
And Barry?
I think on Mighty Potter as well. So I double Aplutard and Sharjah.
You're a double for the doubles, Barry.
Sharjah price a couple this time, though.
Yeah, Barry's been very successful with his doubles in the past. So, sorry, what were you doubling?
So Sharjah and Aplutard.
Sharjah and Aplutard. Okay, great. Well, look, Barry, thanks a million for your time. Brian Cooper as well, thanks a million. Patrick Mullins, thanks very much. And just a thanks as well to all the sponsors at Leopardstown, including Plus Vital, who are sponsoring the Leading Trainers Award. As you know, all the tickets are sold out, but we have 4 great days ahead. And if you're if you're not lucky enough to have a ticket, you can tune in to Racing TV or RT to join all the action. So thanks very much for watching, and hopefully enjoy the racing.